Hello, and welcome to My Streaming Bubble, the podcast where I talk about the streamable media I love with the people I tolerate. I am your TV watching and talking host, Jen, and today I am very excited to welcome back to the bubble two very tolerable bubble pros, two people that have impacted my life and this podcast life greatly. My podcast brain twin and co-host of our monthly podcast, Twin It to Win It, Erin from It's a Fandom Thing. Had it not been for this podcast and this next guest, I never would have met or known Erin. So I'm also very excited to welcome back the very first Tolerable, talking about this very same show 6 fucking years ago, Laura. And we have all gathered here to get all upside downy with the final season and series finale of Stranger Things. So welcome back, ladies. Very excited to have you guys back. Woohoo!
Hi. I'm excited to be here. I don't know how excited both of you will be after I start talking. But
it feels like we're closing out like a really long chapter.
It kind of does. It kind of does. So this will be so interesting because, Erin, I know how you feel about generally overall about the final season and finale, but I have no idea how Laura feels. So I cannot wait to get into this conversation. So before we get started, Erin, if you want to tell us a little bit about your podcast. I almost said My Streaming Bubble. That's my podcast, but your podcast, It's a Fandom Thing.
Sure. Thanks, Jen. My podcast, It's a Fandom Thing. We talk about all things fandom and pop culture, primarily from the female perspective, but I try to have on people whose voices aren't generally heard in the podcasting realm. So basically, I try to have on people that aren't cisgendered straight white men, usually for the most part. And we did talk about Stranger Things like, oh my gosh, it was so long ago. It was only the first, I think it was only the first like 3 seasons we talked about. I don't remember. It was so long ago, but we did talk about that. You can find like all our past episodes, links to our social media, our Discord server, all of that at it'safandomthingpod.com.
Excellent. And make sure you guys go check all of that out because there are some fantastic episodes. I don't think I've listened to the Stranger Things one, so I'll have to go back and revisit that. But yeah, this podcast started with season 3 of Stranger Things with Laura and I. No script, just rambling, no idea what the fuck I was doing. And I only have a slightly better idea of what the fuck I'm doing now. So yeah, Laura, it is very much like full circle. So I cannot wait to get into all of this. So let's do that. So this is your official spoiler warning. If you haven't watched Stranger Things, you've had 10 fucking years to do it. And if you don't want it spoiled, pause the pod, watch the thing, and then come back. Welcome back. So content warnings for like self-harm, child endangerment. I had others, but I thought there were more, but I didn't write them down. Is there anything else that you guys might have clocked that I may have missed?
Horror, gore, just to be thorough, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that works. So, all right. And what IMDb says about this, and this is just the general synopsis on IMDb for the whole series and not specifically for this last season. In 1980s Indiana, a group of young friends witness supernatural forces and secret government exploits. As they search for answers, the children unravel a series of extraordinary mysteries. And what I says about this, and I said this in the bonus mini bubbles I did covering the final season because I couldn't wait and I had things to say. But what I says is, at least we don't ever have to wait for another 4 years between seasons with this show ever again. Phew. This show was written and created by the Duffer Brothers, Matt and Ross, with other writing credits going to Paul Dichter, Kate Trefray, Jesse Nicholas Lopez, Caitlin Schneiderhan, and more. This series was directed by the Duffer Brothers, as well as Sean Levy and many more. It stars Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, Natalia Dyer, Charlie Heaton, Joe Carey, Noah Schnapp, Sadie Sink, Pariah Ferguson, Maya Hawke, Jamie Campbell Bower, Linda Hamilton, Cara Buono, Linnea Berthelsen, and many, many more. Linnea, maybe, is probably how that's actually pronounced. This series is streamable on Netflix. I think you can get DVDs from the library. It looked like our library had up to season 4, part 1 that we could check out. But with streamers and their original shows, I have no idea how any of that is handled when it comes to physical media. I feel like with Stranger Things, they definitely released like the first season as part of all that big marketing with what a hit it became, and almost like a teaser to try and get people to subscribe. So ever since then, I don't know how these DVD releases have gone, if they go anywhere. So. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start with our general thoughts on this final season and finale. And Erin, if you'd like to get things started, what did you think?
I hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. I'll start by saying I loved this first season of Stranger Things. I think it was incredible, amazing. I loved a few of the other seasons, not as much. Necessarily, but I still liked it a lot. This season to me felt like people just being like, okay, I guess we got to do this. The acting was terrible. The writing was terrible. The directing was terrible. I didn't even care about any of the characters, including my favorite character, Steve. I didn't even care about Steve because what was the point? What did they even do with Steve? Nothing. And that stupid crap with him and, why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden?
Dustin?
Will's brother. No, Will's brother.
Oh, yes. Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan. Thank you. And that stupid stuff with Jonathan and Nancy. And it was just like, okay, what? None of this makes sense. And I just think it's terrible. I think it's, to me, it's just like, when people start doing things in entertainment and in art when it used to be a good idea, and now they're just doing it because it's part of like a brand or a cash grab. And also my biggest issue, and I'll go into this more later with this is, honestly, even though I started it and before it started, I was like, if they harm one hair on Steve's head, I'll be really pissed. The fact that they can't even follow through with like definitely killing a main character is ridiculous. The stakes are like not high then, because like I saw a TikTok and someone said you can sum up what's wrong with Stranger Things with this moment when in the season finale Steve falls and they're like, did you think for even a second that he was gonna die? And you don't, because there are no stakes in this. And then to even take away the fact that Elle might not have actually died, it's just like, I don't know, it's so stupid. And bringing Linda Hamilton on was like, what is this about? They didn't even explain any of that. I think Hopper is an asshole. I thought that since like season 3, I believe, or end of season 2. So I don't know. I hated it. I mainly watched it as a completist kind of thing. I was like, I've devoted like 10 years of my life to this stupid show. I need to complete it. It's kind of the way I felt about like the last season of Supernatural kind of thing. So.
All right. That was everything that I hoped it was going to be and more. You just couldn't wait to get that out, and I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, I lost count of how many times you said hate it.
Maybe we should start like a hate count.
Right?
All right. And Laura, what did you think about this last season?
Well, I think my daughter actually summed it up pretty well. She claimed, and I have no idea if this is true or not, but she claimed that the last season was written by ChatGPT, and I was like, you know what? Yeah.
I would not be surprised if that was utilized throughout this final season. So,
yeah, I just have a lot of obscure like questions that, went throughout this season. But first, an observation. Okay, as soon as a show starts splitting itself up into season this, part this, that's a death knell. I'm sorry, but it started before this season. And I gotta say, the second of 3 parts of season 5 was so boring. So boring. I really tried to pay complete attention, but I didn't. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's because the stakes aren't high enough. I don't know. But we went from somebody dying each season to like not somehow. And I'm like, okay, why? Like, okay, how about Mr. Wheeler, right? He's in the middle of his house getting torn apart and somehow doesn't get touched, and he's like the most middle-aged dad dude ever, like stereotypical 80s dad, like gives no shits, does nothing, and
not involved with the family whatsoever. He's just language this, language that.
Why did that dude survive when his wife got absolutely mauled to shit and his daughter got kidnapped? And he has no idea what's going on with his other 2 kids. Like, come on, main character, sure, I agree with you, but what about that? Like, that's the most ridiculous crap ever. He's just sitting there recliner, reading his newspaper, sleeping with the remote, totally oblivious. Like, wow. Whatever he's on, I don't know.
Were Quaaludes still around in the late 80s? When did those stop being a thing?
I think they were.
I just don't know. And I love that there's like zero progression in his relationship with his wife. Like, she's still annoyed with him and like frustrated and disappointed by him. In the graduation at the end, I'm just like, okay, cool. They learned nothing.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. When Steve fell, I was like, oh, he should totally be a goner. But one person catches him and they're strong enough to pull him up. Like, again, what are these people on?
It's the 80s, so it's
Jonathan. Of course, it's Jonathan because of their whole stupid made-up thing where they're fighting over Nancy. I'm like, wasn't that resolved like 3 seasons ago? And why?
I agree. I thought that was really kind of like, out of left field because there was never really any competition between the 2 of them. I think at most like last season when Jonathan was away. But again, he's dealing with his own insecurities and he's projecting that. And I think a little bit during last season, like season 4, there was a little bit of Steve kind of questioning whether or not he may still have feelings for Nancy, but that's clearly a wash by the end of season 4. So to bring that back for season 5 was an odd choice. And Laura, to your season, this part, that I completely agree. I fucking hate all of that. Like when you and I did season 4, I was so super pissed off that I had to wait. And that was only like maybe a week or 2. But either way, I hate it so much. And I kind of feel like, Laura, as you were talking, that this whole like splitting up a season into different parts is like the equivalent of moving a network show to a Friday night. It's like, it's not good. It's like you're trying to do something kind of cool with it by making it like a cool Friday night show, but everyone knows network TV Friday night is the death slot. You want Sunday nights.
Right. And I totally get that the pandemic played a part in how long it took for this show to conclude. But even allowing for that, then splitting seasons up into multiple parts and making it take even longer, not smart.
Not smart at all. It's either give us weekly episodes or the full season. Pick one or the other, in my opinion. This different parts is boring. So, all right. So, Erin, what is the so you talked about low stakes, and I completely agree. And I know even before season 5 came out, the Duffer Brothers were very much saying like, oh, this isn't Game of Thrones. We're not looking to traumatize anybody. So they already kind of laid it out there that none of the main characters were going to die. And for a fraction of a second, I did think Steve might have been a goner, but as soon as the scene came back and he isn't dead, you knew it was Jonathan that saved him immediately. Because of course it's going to be fucking Jonathan. So again, that was all so dumb. But what did you
way cooler if it was Nancy.
It should have been his children. It's like a human rope kind of thing. I would have bought that way faster than Jonathan.
I wanted it to be Nancy because, like, she's like Rambo incarnate.
No shit.
That's
no
true.
shit.
She's just like, you two dumbasses do what I say or else. So of course, but no, it's Jonathan, the weak, always high, meek Jonathan somehow mustered the physical strength he very much does not have to get Steve, who's definitely heavier than him.
But, Jonathan must have gotten more athletic because the way they raced up the tower in the beginning of the season and not needing any brakes on the platforms, they just zipped right on up. So somewhere,
that was weird.
Jonathan did not skip leg day. And it's able to shimmy up there. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, there's too much suspension of disbelief in this show. And not because of the monsters. I did not agree with, these two guys just being able to climb a 500-foot tower without needing a break. No way. But also, Nancy is an incredible shot with a gun, better than the military-trained people she's shooting at. Come on.
Yep. Yeah, she's almost been like a natural shot since season 1. She really took to shooting guns. So she must get that, even though we never see her fire a weapon, I feel like she does definitely get that from her mom's side, from Carrie.
Yeah, for sure. The Wheeler women are also really good at compartmentalizing their trauma because as soon as it's over, they're just like, whatever, I'm going back to normal life now.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
Okay, let's see. But what did you guys think? So while we're talking about, I just want to say Joe Carey now. Oh my God. Steve, thank you. Him and Dustin have a bit of some shit to work through. Erin, what did you think about how that was handled with Dustin being depressed and angry and angsty and self-destructive, and Steve being his best dad-ish friend, and how that all kind of culminate? What'd you think of that?
Hated it.
I can't say I'm shocked.
I'm going to say something that's going to probably make everybody hate me. I hate Dustin this season. He is the most obnoxious, annoying character this season for me, right up there with Hopper. I just couldn't stand him. I was just like, well, actually, a lot of these characters I don't like this season. What am I talking about? But he just really annoyed me. That whole stress and strain in their relationship felt, I don't know, forced to me. I get he's grieving Eddie and blah, blah, blah. I get that. And I'm not trying to say he shouldn't be grieving Eddie or his, hurt isn't warranted or whatever, or his fear of losing Steve isn't warranted. But it just felt, I don't know, weird to me. It felt out of place, and it felt like it only would make sense if they were gonna, I don't know, delve deeper into it. It just, I don't know. I just really didn't care about it at all. And like I said, Steve is my favorite character on the show, and one of my favorite character arcs is Steve's, but it felt like they were doing what shows tend to do with characters that I happen to love and love their growth, is they like to just take that growth away or make them stale and boring, or put a little bump in the road to make it so that maybe you don't like them anymore. I think Supernatural did that with Dean. And you could never make me hate Dean Winchester, but they tried to do that with Dean, the same kind of thing. They tried to ruin his character and do all these things that Dean wouldn't do, and or try to turn the audience against him. And
what did he do?
This is a very
pie.
What?
did he stop eating pie or something? I stopped watching Supernatural after season 5 because that's when it was supposed to end. I just couldn't do it.
No, they did this whole thing with this character Jack that everybody loves and I hate. But
Okay.
So I just think they were trying to just, I don't know, throw roadblocks in there that really didn't seem necessary at this point if you're going to be ending the show. I don't know, it just felt like trying to put drama where drama wasn't. What might have been more interesting is if Dustin was still had that fear about Steve dying too, and then he becomes a little bit more like oddly protective of him. So it has this role reversal there. That might have been more interesting than this instantly like, I don't know, Dustin rebelling or whatever that he was doing. I don't know. I think that would have been more interesting. But I know everybody loves Dustin a lot. And I normally do love Dustin, but I just, his graduation speech. Anyway. I'm sorry.
I actually kind of liked the graduation speech. But
I did too, but
I rolled my eyes.
I was also impressed that, Dustin could be going through all of these problems, in and out of the whole upside down part of it, right? And somehow still be valedictorian. Like, dude, how did you do that? Because I'm pretty sure if your attendance is that bad, you don't get to be valedictorian anymore. But anyway.
A lot of makeup work.
I don't think that whatever the dynamic was between Steve and everyone else was actually Steve's fault. I think like with Steve and Jonathan, he was responding to Jonathan's behavior, not necessarily feelings for Nancy. And I don't know, but that still seems appropriate for Steve's character because he has always been easily goated. But like between Steve and Dustin, you're right. Dustin is grieving. He's probably dealing with some PTSD, but honestly, who isn't in this town? But I found Dustin's logic flawed. Like, yes, grieve Eddie. Yes, stand up for the Hellfire in the time where D&D was considered a satanic ritual of some kind. Sure, but Steve has always been there for him, and he's yelling at Steve. Eddie was the only one who was there for me and understood me, and I'm like, what the hell, Dustin? Like, it just didn't make sense to me at all. Like, Steve he doesn't share the same interests that Eddie and Dustin shared, but Steve understands Dustin in a way that nobody has. And he even understood Eddie in a way that no one was willing to admit. Like, I don't understand what they were trying to do with Dustin, but you're right. A more logical course would have been Dustin being afraid of losing the only other person he had outside of his core group of friends that cared about him. And they missed that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. I think they just got too focused on still addressing Eddie's death. I almost feel like maybe Dustin's, the way he felt about it was maybe a little bit of a reflection of like the fans at the time and kind of like our grief and our anger and also not wanting to lose Steve as well. And I think if that's kind of what they were going for, they could have done that in a much better, more cohesive way. I don't mind that. Dustin's kind of being a shit, but I can totally get it and I accept it. I was actually mad at his friends at the beginning because they're all like kind of like, oh, he's lost it. He's gone off the deep end. But I actually agreed with Dustin in that it felt like, in a way, like the friends were, quote, like kind of giving up, but it was just a different approach. Like Dustin was very much like gung-ho, let's go, let's do this, maybe more like run into the fire instead of like kind of thinking about it. But I kind of agreed with him in that sense. And it felt like the friends were more or less playing it safe with just sticking to doing the crawls and whatnot. But with Dustin's self-destructive behavior in picking fights with the bullies and antagonizing them, that I didn't necessarily care for that, especially on this last rewatch. But I guess it kind of like I accept it. It kind of makes sense. We don't know what the situation was with Dustin's dad. I don't think they ever mention if he passed away or left or was maybe never a part of the picture anyway. So assuming that it was something, something along those lines, a tad bit more traumatic, the way he latches onto Steve and holds on to Steve and the way he processes Eddie's death could be coming from a place that we are unaware of because they never showed us. You know what I mean? Like with him.
That's fair.
Whatever the father situation is. But that is a big reach for us to have to do, I feel like. And because my mind never stops, I think I was able to kind of go there and just be accepting of it. So, and also waiting all this goddamn time, I'm just like, okay, that works. Let's go on.
Yeah, but the self-destructive behavior didn't, like you said, it didn't make sense all the time. Like, it made sense in terms of Dustin figuring out something and believing he was right to the point of recklessness.
Mm-hmm.
That was within his character. But the picking the fights with the jocks, bullies, whatever, at the graveyard and all that stuff, that was not within his character. Like, again, he's incredibly intelligent. He's not just going to turn that off because he's emotional. Like, I think he's going to use his intelligence recklessly. And like the thing with the shield generator, being absolutely certain that that's what it was without any evidence other than circular patterns and the icky vines on the wall. Like, that sounded plausible to me. That sounded like, oh yeah, he is taking massive leaps in logic because he doesn't give a shit right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say the power of being overly emotional is definitely one that can push logic straight out of the window. So again, I'm like, okay, I'll bite. So again, but maybe I was just willing to accept so much more because it had been so fucking long. So.
Yeah,
let's
I
see.
wasn't.
Yeah. And to kind of go back quick to the Steve, Nancy, Jonathan projecting and all of that. Jonathan clearly dealing with his insecurities. Steve, as you said, Laura, just kind of more or less reacting to Jonathan's ways. And I think one of the best examples of that is after Karen is attacked and Nancy's at the hospital, Steve brings up going to the hospital to visit Nancy and bring her flowers. There was nothing romantic within any of those suggestions. It was just like, hey, the hospital's right there. Why don't we go check on our friend? And then for Jonathan to immediately just take that as stop trying to move in on my girlfriend, and Steve just being like, my friend's mother was and her father were just attacked. She might need people to be there for her. So that still bothers me with Jonathan and just his massive insecurities. Like, Steve's had growth. Almost all of them have had some sort of growth. Jonathan, not, if anything, the only thing that's grown with Jonathan is his insecurities. And maybe that's all that purple palm tree delight. Who knows?
Yeah, it's funny with Jonathan because in season 1, I loved Jonathan so much and I hated Steve. And I was like a Jonathan and Nancy shipper and I loved them together. And then they got together in season 2 and then it was like, I don't like them. I don't really like Nancy either. And it's just kind of like this thing of like feeling ho-hum about them and how Jonathan presented as like the guy that like for me in high school would have been the guy I would be drawn to because he's all brooding and artistic and all of that. But then you look at it and there's so much insecurity there, but there's also like this, he's weirdly possessive. And when you really look at his behavior in season 1, that is stalking shit, man. When he's like taking those photos of Nancy, that is creepy behavior. And I know it's one of those tropes, it's the stalking for love trope. And it's the thing that we all kind of excuse sometimes and go, okay, whatever. It's just, a movie or TV show. But then you look back on that and look at it like when you're going to season 5 and how he has all those insecurities of like, I'm not good enough for Nancy. Nancy's never wanted me, even though like Nancy very clearly and obviously liked him way more than she ever liked Steve. Like very, very, very clearly. And Nancy's big thing, I think, is she just shouldn't be in a relationship. And that's why I'm glad she's not. I will say one positive. I am so glad they broke up. I thought that was a really, really good thing to do. And I love that Jonathan had that engagement ring because he was so desperate to hang on to her. And then he realized he was just desperate to hang on to her. It wasn't even that he wanted to be with her. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated that he said, will you not marry me? I thought that was great. I thought that was wonderful. And I do still think they have chemistry. And of course they've been like together off screen forever. So it makes sense. But Jonathan to me was such a wasted potential of having someone who was very weird and a freak and, like they have other freaks in the show, but a different kind of freak. And like the artistic, even they could have even made him like goth or something like that. And I think it would have made him a more interesting character. So it's just kind of like really regression with him. He, like you said, he's like, hasn't really grown that much at all as a character. He's regressed. And it's sad to me because I really loved him in the first season, even though that stalking stuff was not okay. And I should have like really picked up at first. But I hated Steve so much in the first season that I'm like, whatever.
Again, just buying into whatever, because we're just like, yeah, this works. I like it. This is kind of what I want, even though it's not really what I want with the stalking, But again, like especially in the 80s and with season 1 just being like holding a mirror to that decade and what we were given, that was very much a thing of romance. And, back in the day, we're supposed to buy that as, oh, he really cares about her to the point where he's hiding in the bushes and taking photos of her consensually.
I'm sorry, but how do we as a society rationalize that to the point where we are like only retroactively like, wait a minute.
Well, the world is run by perverts, so I'm blaming it on that.
It's true.
But Jonathan, in a way, and I really hate saying this, is the most consistent character on the show. He was a creep, and he still is a creep. He was
fair.
Insecure, and he still is insecure. He's just better at talking about it now.
Yeah.
Like seriously, that dude, every time he's on screen, and I don't know if this was their intention, but every time he's on screen, I get the I gotta move on from that.
And I will say, like, I liked Jonathan and Nancy's breakup, but I hated Jonathan for I got rid of your pink sweater because I hate pink. Then don't fucking wear her pink sweater. What the fuck was that?
That was fucked up, man. That was so fucked up.
And then And then I thought he was going to save it by being like, well, I felt so bad about it that I went and got you another one, or I went and bought it back or something. But no, nope. Nothing to fucking save that. Again, just selfish. So, I was going somewhere with that. I did like their breakup. I don't remember now. I apologize.
I think their breakup was necessary, but I didn't like that it took a life or death moment for it to happen. Sorry.
No, that's a good point. That's what happens a lot on this show, though, is, they're in the middle of almost dying and they don't run. That's different.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So since I can't remember what I was going to say about Jonathan, Nancy, and their breakup, other than I liked it, I appreciates it. Let's see. Let's get on to a couple other things, like some of the other things that I actually had written down on the outline. So some of the more divisive moments, perhaps. The Will coming out and how that was handled, the return of 8, and the inclusion of Holly. Oh, I do remember what I was going to say now. I apologize. So during the breakup scene, and Nancy's like talking about Steve, and she's like, well, he does have much better hair than you. Like, we know this, but, we want to give Will all this shit for having a bowl cut all the way into his 30s. But why are we not giving Jonathan shit for not ever washing his hair?
His hair gets more and more disgusting as the show goes on. It's amazing. Even after everything went down and they're all like reminiscing, I'm just like, dude is in New York and going to film school, and he still does that. Like, ugh, see, I just can't.
So, all right.
Although I will say, I think his look in their, got that thing on the roof was in their reunion and their little get together thing, which whatever. I think that's when he looked the cleanest.
I agree.
But still gross. Why? And who's cutting his hair? Is he doing it himself without a mirror? Like, stop it.
His bangs look so short. Like, it reminded me the first time I cut my bangs as a child. The first lesson you learn is don't raise your eyebrows when you're looking and cutting. Because if you're trying to cut them in line with your eyebrows, once they drop into a natural position, now you've got like the super short bangs, whatever, the baby bangs or whatever they're
also,
called.
Don't hold them straight and then do it, because that won't work either. You get the same result.
You got to do the parting and then the twist. Like, there's videos. I watched plenty of them during 2020 on how to cut my bangs. I've gotten so much better. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up Jonathan's bad hair because I'm glad Nancy did. And I don't think enough people talk about it, especially compared to how much we talk about Will's bad hair. So, all right. Well, speaking of Will, what did you guys think of his role this season, him coming out, him facing his fears, him still doing crying whisper talk, shaky voice, and being more or less useless?
All right.
Oh, Lori, go ahead.
Okay.
Just waiting on that one.
Being more or less useless.
When Vecna Henry found a way through Will's defenses, I was like, oh man, this has got to be something good. And it was all because he was afraid to come out. I was like, oh, I get that the 80s were a terrible time to do that. And I'm trying so hard to put it in a perspective that I can rationalize. But I'm like, are you fucking serious? Your family and friends have seen you in some of the most compromised positions of your life. Like, come on. After all of that, you're still, and that's all he had to do was show you that they're gonna be mad at you because you're gay. Like, come on. That's like saying Vecna didn't even have to try.
All right. That's Laura's take. Erin, what did you think?
I'll be honest, it was very hard for me to separate the fact that Noah Schnapp is a Zionist from watching him this season. Mm-hmm. So that clouded a lot of what I was watching, because when I found that out, when he was just yucky. Mm-hmm. So I'll be honest, that clouded a lot. I don't think the performance was good anyway. But I will say, even though I hate the way they did it, because it was like, is this really the time to have this huge, long thing? It felt so forced and fake. And that's my biggest issue with this season, honestly, is so many forced and fake moments that could be beautiful moments, but because they don't feel real and I don't believe the actors in the moment, they feel forced to me. And the writing is bad. But I will say, in Will's defense, even though logically from everything we've seen, his friends and his found family, and maybe his family too, are probably not going to turn on him. But he doesn't know. But when you're in that space, and I've known so many people during that time and during the 90s where coming out, even though you had people that you were supportive and saw you through everything, didn't always do that. So I think his fear is very legitimate and I totally understand it. And he's been dealing with that fear for a couple of seasons now. He's always felt like the outsider. Like you saw it when he still wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons and nobody else wanted to because they were getting older and moving on. Or, his ongoing crush on Mike and everything. So even though I'm not a fan of the character, and a lot of that is colored by the actor, because I used to be a fan of the character, I totally get why that's his biggest fear, because that's a huge thing, especially in that time period when you are villainized and you've also got, that's really during the height of the AIDS epidemic. And so you have so much stigma on people. So I get that. And I really, look at Robin. Robin is out to Steve, but she's not even really that out either. So she's also going through this, through that as well. And I think what I appreciated the most about the coming out storyline is his interactions with Robin, and Robin having him see that, what Mike meant, what that really meant, that it wasn't really necessarily about wanting to be with Mike, but that was like Mike was helping propel that coming out moment. So even though I don't think the coming out moment was handled that well, I wish it had actually happened in a different season. I appreciate how that would be his biggest fear.
Yeah, like I said, I really tried to rationalize it with all of those things because I see those things. And if this were, an 80s show where the stakes weren't, the total annihilation of the planet, apparently, I would buy that a bit more. But under the specific circumstances that Will has been through, I just don't buy it remaining. That would be his biggest fear. A fear still, absolutely. But after everything he's been through as an individual and everything they've been through collectively, for him to still be stuck on that, I don't know. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that fear, though, plays into a bigger fear for Will where that plays into the big world annihilation. This is a kid who, when he was really young, was basically kidnapped by this other world that was going to destroy things. And he's been used this whole time by this other world and by Vecna and everything like that. And so I think everything feels like very tenuous for him and everything feels very fragile for him. And so I think in his mind, I think there's a part of him that maybe is associating this with the fact that I think he still feels abandoned and like left behind. And I think he's been dealing with that a lot from what happened with him. And so I think that's why this part of being genuine in who he is, I think there's a part of him that feels like he's been, abandoned so much in his life or, like literally kidnapped and taken somewhere else, that if he tests that, maybe that'll happen to him again. If that makes sense. So I think that even though I totally understand what you're saying, Laura. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, though.
And also, like, even back to season 1, we find out through Joyce that her ex-husband, Will and Jonathan's dad, would throw homophobic slurs at Will and call him, the F word and all of that. So you got to figure, especially at that time of season 1 and how old Will is, his whole life, he's already had to deal with being, teased, bullied by his own father. So I feel like maybe that's a lot, too, that he carries with him in terms of how much of a fear that is. Because the first time that he can really remember, I guess, not necessarily the first time, but it's his parent that is his first bully. And I feel like that's a really hard thing to let go of, especially when you're talking about being gay in the 80s. It's like, I totally get what you're saying as well, Laura, because kidnapped, possessed, used, abused, all of those things.
Slugs.
puking up slugs. Even losing Bob, and, he seemed to like Bob, and, Bob seemed to have somewhat of an impact on him when Bob's like, oh, I told the bad thing to go away, and Will tries that, and it didn't work, and then he ends up losing another father-like figure. So
Yeah. I just feel like there's so many more things that he could be more afraid of in that particular moment.
Absolutely.
And it took him forever for him to just say it, and I understand, like, if one was actually coming out to a group of people, it would probably feel like that. But it also, like you said, it didn't land right. Like, it wasn't delivered in a way that made you feel those feelings. It did nothing for my impatience. I was just like, just say it already. Get on with it. Yeah. I've seen other moments of, like, genuine fragility and fear with, like, prominent characters handling these kind of feelings in a way that you cannot help but feel it with them. And I think that moment lost a lot of its power, and it lost its place because of how it was done.
Yeah, I think when you look at how Robin came out to Steve, which I think is the best scene in the whole entire series, honestly, when you look at that scene and how that was handled and compare it to this, that scene of Robin coming out to Steve was really beautiful and done in this very intimate way. And they were also in a life or death situation at the moment, but it was handled in such a way where it was like, it felt honest and real and believable. And it was also a moment that, for me, even though I already loved Steve at that point, really made me love Steve, because his reaction was hands down one of the best reactions. And if you had taken, like, when you were watching season 1, you would have never believed that he would have ever reacted that way. So I think that's also another thing that maybe part of it too is that we're holding up that, at least, and I don't know if you liked that scene too, Laura, but that scene.
Oh, I love that scene.
Yeah, so we have that scene, and yeah.
Steve's character growth is like he was playing the part he was supposed to play in season 1. Like, what people expected him to be instead of being himself. And then he got to be himself for the rest of the show, and you're like, this dude's awesome. I love this dude. But yeah, difficulties with the actor side. I just cannot get behind this scene. Like, I don't know, maybe it would have landed better the previous season with, the whole California thing and Will silently crying in the car, and, like, maybe it would have been a better conclusion to that rather than it coming now.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think that could have worked in season 4 because he had the painting that he gave to Mike. He seems to kind of acknowledge these feelings a little bit more, even though he may or may not understand them or is willing to, like, accept it fully. But I feel like that definitely could have worked.
But especially since that was the season where they tried the running away and getting on with a relatively normal life somewhere else. Like, they showed everyone struggling with that. Like, that would have been the perfect time.
Yeah, I do agree. So I will say my main issue with Will's coming out scene, because as a straight woman, I have no idea what any of that could have felt like, and how rambly you may or may not have gotten. Like, I can accept all of that. The only thing I have an issue with is coming out to everyone, all at once. Because yes, if it was that great of a fear, how you gonna come out to 20 fucking people and Kali is just standing there, just like, I'm gonna go check the vending machines.
So was Vicky. She's just like, I really shouldn't be here for this. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't.
So that is the biggest issue that I have with Will's coming out scene. I can accept everything else because, again, I don't know what that situation feels like, could feel like, how terrifying it may or may not be. But the everybody. You know, I think it could have worked much better where right as he's getting ready to tell Joyce and then Mike walks in to hear maybe that confession and then maybe being handled more gently that way.
Yeah,
But
that's what
like,
I thought they were going to do. And then he didn't, and I was
yeah,
like, oh God,
well,
he said he wants to tell everyone, okay.
tell
And then he literally
everybody.
does, and I'm just like, whoa, that's not what I thought he meant. But
So,
like, okay, I have to put some context on this, all right? Like, I have an obvious physical disability, so I grew up with a huge fear of bullying and rejection because I experienced it on a daily basis. Friends, family, friends, whatever. Like, I understand that fear that Will has. I don't understand why it's the primary driver in such a time of crisis. Because for me, in times of crisis, it's not that it doesn't exist anymore. It gets pushed aside because there's way more important shit going on right now. So, I just had a really hard time accepting that moment for what it was.
mm-hmm. And I
Yeah,
think that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned Kali hanging out in the background of Will's coming out scene. But we get the return of Elle's older sister, 8, Kali. So, Erin, what did you think about the return of 8 and where things went with that? You know what? Maybe I'll stop asking you first. But what did you think of all of that? And how much did you hate it?
How much did you hate it?
On a
It was
scale of hate or hate.
It was my favorite part of the whole. No, I'm one of those people that I was disappointed with that. What is the name of that episode?
Little Sister.
Thank you.
Little. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, because I didn't remember on purpose.
And here's the thing. I think actually, in all honesty, it could have been interesting, but it goes into the whole problem of the Linda Hamilton storyline and the storyline of having all those people that are pregnant that what the hell happened to them? I don't know.
Yeah.
They died.
Yeah, I guess so. And trying to, but it never really is like talked about. It just bothers me. But I think it actually could have been an interesting storyline and could have been great if it was introduced in like a different season that wasn't the season finale, because it felt like they're putting too much in there. And then she ends up becoming a sacrifice because she does die.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ends up becoming a sacrificial character. And that just felt wrong to me. And I think there was also this underlayer there that could have been interesting to explore, where she seemed like she really kind of didn't trust anybody else around Elle, or could have been using Elle. And there seemed to be this underlying thing there where, like, especially with Jim, where she felt like maybe she was like gonna, I don't know, sabotage things, but then that was never really explored. So I just felt like it was a waste of what could have been maybe interesting. And it just felt like you're in the final season. You don't need to bring on all these characters. The only reason it seemed they did it was so that she could sacrifice her life. That was the whole purpose, was so she could help a little bit with that and then sacrifice her life for these people who did not care about her. Everyone was so rude and mean to her the whole time too, except for 11. But it just felt like, okay, why do this now? Why not do this like in season 4 and then maybe she stays on through, I don't know. It just felt kind of like, and nobody really likes that episode that she was on or liked that whole thing. So it felt weird to bring her back because of that too, except for Jen. Yes, I did listen to your episode when you said that. So except for Jen, most people didn't like that. So it just felt kind of like, why bring her back of all the people? It would have been made more sense to like somehow, even though he didn't have powers, so I guess it wouldn't have made sense, but to somehow have Eddie still be alive because of the fandom, but that still would have felt like fan service. But sometimes that's okay. So I don't know. It just was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. And Laura?
Hi. So I didn't like this. First of all, I did not like the original episode of her appearance because it just seemed so way off base. And then they're like, oh shit, we fucked up. Let's just ignore we ever did this. And then they're like, wait, never mind. It would be really weird if we didn't like acknowledge it in some way. So here she is. And then the one compliment I'll give it is that, yes, she was very clearly brought in to be a sacrifice, but it was written that way that she was very much aware of that and making that choice. So at least there was that, the illusion of control in it. Mm-hmm. But that being said, they didn't know how to handle her across the episodes she was in, and it was really jarring because 1 minute she's very clearly manipulating Eleven, very clearly, and then the next minute she's all like concerned about Eleven's safety with other people, and then she's back to manipulating her again, and then she's back to being concerned again, and she barely says 2 words the whole time. Like, I don't understand this character. Mm-hmm. I don't. And also, she's stuck out like a sore thumb the whole time, and I didn't like that because the whole group of friends has been very accepting of people from everywhere and giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. I mean, even at the end, Will's like, you're just like me, you're a vessel, you're a pawn, blah blah blah, and okay, so they can empathize with Henry, but they can't empathize with her. I don't get it. Like, she was not approachable and they were not approachable. So it was just like 2 groups of people, for lack of a better term, just standing there awkwardly with each other. And I hated it.
Yeah. So yes, I did like the episode Little Sister, but I do agree that not ever bringing her up again until now is definitely a mistake and a missed opportunity, because I feel like they could have, everything they did with 8 in this last season, they could have kind of stretched out through the last handful of seasons and then make her more part of the group, or maybe not have to have a sacrifice, or if she did end up having to sacrifice herself, that maybe the fans would like give a shit more. Because in the past seasons, all the people that have died, Bob, Barb, Benny, justice for fucking Benny, always and forever. First person to be nice to Elle, shot in the fucking face and never mentioned again. So rude. But we were all emotionally attached to these people. You know, Alexi was adorable, right? Him and his Slurpees and making Hopper mad and frustrated and everything.
Right, and we barely had time with these people in the grand scheme of the show. That's the thing. We had all this time with her in this final season, and nobody feels a thing. Like, it's just weird. But I had a thought, okay? You know how she's been doing all of these training montages to get ready for fighting Henry? 8 could have been her trainer.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, because Hopper can help her train physically just fine. Military, police background, all that stuff. But he has no idea how to use the power side of things. That should have been 8. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've done a disservice because she wasn't just here to be a self-sacrifice. She was here as a mechanism to introduce the ambiguity about whether or not 11 died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's true.
Yep. And that could have even just been an afterthought as well. You know what I mean? Like,
for all we know.
Yeah, for all we know.
GPT did a great job.
So, yeah, I feel like Kali is definitely a missed opportunity. I feel like we definitely don't get enough of her. She doesn't have any growth. I thought her to be far more interesting in season 2 in her 1 episode than throughout her run in this season. And I understand that she's been experimented on and drugged and everything, and she's very much jaded to what Linda Hamilton and the government is doing. But I did not like this version of Kali and how she was presented. I did not like the fact that Hop immediately distrusted her and was straight up like, I will fucking kill this child if she steps wrong. I did not fucking care for that. And I feel like after all of these years, and not just real life time, but the time passed in the show, he shouldn't still be annoyed with 8 and bringing in the word bitchin' and changing Elle's style and everything. Like, Elle is very much throughout the whole series trying to find herself, her footing, where she fits in and all of that.
Right.
So for him to still be mad about that and not at least somewhat acknowledge what that time with 8 did for Elle is very frustrating. And I feel like Hop gets more and more small-minded as the series continued, and less kind of open. Like, he just is, like, it's fine. Like, I didn't mind him in season 1, just kind of being a schlub and grumpy and a drunk and addicted to pills. Like, as terrible as all those things are, there was something endearing about it for me.
Me too.
But like, here, and honestly, it was like last season with him being captured and held as a prisoner in Russia. Ever since then, it's kind of like, you know. So I didn't like his attitude towards Kali. I don't like that her character was so mishandled. And honestly, yeah, they brought her back this season because over the last 15 years, everyone's been like, well, what about Kali? You know, bring her, show her once and then never again. And I've been fine with that. But yeah, they just kind of like shoved her in as like a last minute afterthought and just seemed like they were making it up as they went with her. Because yes, this kind of back and forth. So yeah.
Yeah. I will say with Hopper, though, I thought that was totally in character because he's been like that since he became the surrogate father to Elle. He's a total jackass. He was my absolute number 1 favorite character in season 1. I adored him, loved him. And then when he became the surrogate dad to Elle, he turned into this misogynistic, disgusting, overprotective jerk. He just, in my opinion, just did. And I just think starting late season 2, especially season 3 and going forth, he just became this guy that I did not care for and didn't like at all. And the way that he would treat Mike and the way he treated Elle and everything. And I know it's going to that 80s thing. I understand that, but it just was so gross to me. And so to me, honestly, even though I think a lot of the other people's reactions to her are forced, I actually think it was totally the way I would expect him to react because he's just kind of
been like that. Yeah. And that's fair. I get that. So, all right. And speaking of kind of randomish new characters this season, the inclusion of Holly. Laura, what did you think of the inclusion of Holly?
I was like, damn, she grew up fast. Wasn't she just a baby?
yeah.
Yeah.
How long is this series supposed to be over? Like, what is it?
It's like
85 to 89. Is that right? Or is it
something like that? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
So I'm sorry, her age is just not mathing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, fine. I'll put it aside. Whatever. You know, she's a 5th grader or something. I don't freaking know. Okay, sure. Like, you can't get involved in a magical universe until you're at least 11 years old, apparently. Stupid Harry Potter rules. Anyway. Fine. Suspending disbelief yet again. I didn't mind it. I really didn't. I much more enjoyed dipshit Derek, honestly. And I got like super freaked out during the scene where the kids started beating the shit out of her because she was, seeing the truth. And they all started speaking in unison, and I'm like, oh my God, are we going Children of the Corn here? Like, I don't know if I can get through this if it keeps going that way. I am super freaked out by that. But then, again, those Wheeler women and just like compartmentalizing this stuff. she's just like, I'm not mad. We got a job to do. I'm just like, no, I'm pretty sure I'd be pretty pissed off at this moment. Fuck all you guys. I'm out. Like, so yeah, I had some problems with it, but aside from those, I didn't mind the storyline at all.
All right. And Erin?
I was able to put aside to the disbelief thing with the age because I've watched soaps my whole life, and there's actually a saying for this. It's called S.O.R.A.S, soap opera rapidly aging syndrome, and it's where a kid will go from 2 to a teenager. So so I'm so used to it that
I love it.
I'm of two minds of her because I think the actress actually, I think this is one of the better performances this season. I think she's so good. And I think if she had been rapidly aged up maybe sooner or something, it might have been a little more interesting because again, it felt like adding so much in instead of focusing on the core people. But at the same time, so much of this season was boring to me or didn't interest me, and she kind of did. And some of the other kids, and creepy kids are creepy kids, and so like the other kids ganging up on her was very much that creepy kid thing.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that trope so much.
Back to the light. Back to the light. Back to the light.
It's awful. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I love horror movies more than anything else, and Children of the Corn still creeps me out because of all those kids are so creepy. Plus cornfields are creepy to me, but
understandable.
But
not for me, but if you grew up like riding 4-wheelers through them and everything, it doesn't seem like a big deal. So
but there was this TikTok that I watched, and I won't get into this too much because I would have to really have watched it again, that talked about that actually it's a disturbing development with this character because all the other female characters are dressed a certain way, but she's dressed in this way that's almost sexualizing her in this. And so it's an interesting TikTok that this person that I follow, this woman who does these amazing analysis of media, talked about how that's kind of disturbing, how it feels like they're dressing her in this weird, provocative way. And I know that may sound weird because she's dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, basically. But it was interesting because I hadn't thought of that. And then watching her and how, I don't know, it feels kind of like maybe it should have been in a different show, if that makes sense. But I thought the actress was so good that it made me enjoy her storyline probably more than some of the other storylines. I just wish it had been introduced a different way, and maybe like if they, which, the Duffer Brothers say they had planned this. That's a lie. They thought the first season, they were going to do like basically an anthology type series originally. And so, but if they hadn't, and they weren't lying, and they had been planning it, they should have had her be older in season 1. Instead of going the S.O.R.A.S route. So.
I love that there's an actual term for that.
That's, you can look it up.
I trust you completely. I'm not putting that into my
this history of it. It's really funny. It's got a Wikipedia page, I believe, too. So
of course,
wow,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't really. I also didn't mind the inclusion of Holly, and I would agree. So rewatching the series, I mean, she's always been a little bit present for some of these odder moments. Season 1, she sees a Demogorgon trying to push its way through the wall at Joyce's. She sees the trees moving in the Mind Flayer in the Mind Flayer season. But it would have been, if they had actually always planned to have her included in the finale, I feel like those moments should have been a little bit more, maybe more frequent, maybe more present, maybe more of a reaction from little Holly or something. So I didn't mind it there. I think I saw the same TikTok that you are referencing, Erin, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I don't know, I guess because I took her look as an Alice in Wonderland look meets
that
Dorothy.
was my interpretation of it as well.
And also meets Little Red Riding Hood, because I forgot she has like the hooded cloak and everything a little later. And because the room that she's staying in is Henry's sister's room, who is named Alice and has the Alice in Wonderland poster in the bedroom. So kind of all of those things. But I feel like, and I don't know how old the actress is in real life. I think she's still only like 14 or 15. I know she's a minor because gross people on TikTok had Grok do gross things. So,
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's maybe because she's like 14, 15, trying to play like an 11, 12-year-old where like the pigtails kind of were a bit of a miss for me. I get what they were trying to do with the look, but that girl does not look 11. She does look mid-teen, 14, 15 years old. So that's where, yeah, some of that kind of fell flat for me. But I kind of liked her inclusion. I thought that about halfway through the season, after she confronts, after she gets her ass kicked by all of her quote friends and everything and all of that, and she's really like trying to save all of them, it felt like they were just kind of done with her after that.
Yeah.
We had all these moments with her and Max in the cave, and Max was a bit of a disappointment this season as well. A lot of them were a disappointment, honestly. But I thought it was interesting. But again, with a lot of things this season, it could have been handled differently. It could have been handled a little better. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, all I'm going to say about Holly. I've gone off about her on the mini bubbles in the past. So I will say, though, including her, I always say I'm done with something and then like, oh yeah, 14 more things. Including her and making her such a main character in this season, to me, again, feels like the equivalent of introducing a small child to a failing television series.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So unless that's what they were going for, that authenticity of a failing television series of the 80s.
But they didn't do the jump the shark thing.
Yeah. Maybe not killing Steve, maybe almost, but the not killing Steve was their jump the shark. I don't know.
I don't know.
All right. And let's, and I know there's probably a billion other things. We could probably do this in 3 parts as well.
No.
No.
I love it. But let's get to Henry/Vecna and Henry's trauma, becoming Vecna, Will trying to reach out to Henry and be like, you're just like me. With all of that, I will just say I do like that they didn't completely try to make us sympathize with Henry and how Henry was like, I made my fucking choice and I chose to be a dick. So, all right. So, pens. Erin, what did you think of the Henry's trauma, how he became Vecna, and the kind of how that's all tied to now, once again, the mind flare?
Okay, this is where I actually compliment. I love the character of Vecna so damn much. I think he deserves a better script and a better story. I think this is this could have been one of the greatest TV villains ever if, I don't know, the writing was stronger or something. And I think the actor, he's so good. And I think he's such an interesting character to explore with the trauma and how trauma can make some people turn certain ways and then other ways. His trauma, though, that whole thing in the cave, I think it should have been a higher stake. To me, that didn't feel like the highest of stakes for some reason. And maybe I just kind of was like, what? So it's a thing he's opening a suit. It just felt like, okay, the stakes needed to be a little bit higher. And it felt like he might have known, like, at least this is what I got from it. Maybe I'm wrong, but he might have known Joyce and like Hopper when he was a teenager, and I wish that had been explored more then, if that was the case. That was weird to add that in and not like have like Joyce go, oh, I remember you. It's like, that was kind of odd. But overall, I love that character. I think it's a fantastic villain that deserved a better show. And I do want to say, though, I do appreciate that he never like attempted to redeem himself, and the show didn't attempt to redeem him, because that would have been awful. I love that he stayed a villain even in that last part and when he's crying. And I just think that was so well done. And I think the actor is so good. And so that is one of my positive notes. And that's why it's also frustrating to me, because I'm like, you have such a great villain right here, and you're wasting your time with Linda Hamilton. And no offense to Linda Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
I like her, but you could have, your villain is right there. That's the villain. And also, of course, humans are always worse. I understand that, but we've dealt with that in other seasons. Let's just deal with Henry and with Vecna, and let's just deal with that, because he's such a fascinating character. So
yeah,
overall, though,
again,
I love him.
I think they were guilty of trying to do too much in this season. Like, seriously, the pregnant women plot and Linda Hamilton plot should have been its own thing. It should have, because this was supposed to be Henry. This was supposed to be the fight with Vecna. This was supposed to be the conclusion of that storyline, not whatever the fuck that was. And Jamie Campbell Bower is such an underappreciated actor. I have seen him in other things, and he always grabs your attention. Like, the way he's able to convey emotions with such complexity, even when he's not saying a word, is just amazing. And I think we missed out on so much. And I think they also took away of so much of that by putting him in that ridiculous Vecna suit. Because, again, I think Vecna as a monster was better in the previous seasons. And it was even apparent in the subtitles. I always have those on. And you know what it lacked? Wet
Everything?
Squelching. There was no more wet squelching. Like,
the closed captioning for this season is the absolute worst from beginning to end. Even in season 1, it was more descriptive. Season 4 is peak closed captioning. I say this so much, but it is peak closed captioning. Really kind of sets that fucking bar really, really high. It'll even have like birds chirping in the background, whether or not it means anything to the scene. They had fucking everything. Here, no wet squelching, no dry squelching. Ew. Ow. None of that.
I'm sorry, what would that even sound like?
I don't know, but I saw Erin's face after I said that, and I apologize.
Seriously, we went from wet, squelchy environment to a desert also. Like, was that a metaphor for the show drying out? I'm sorry. But
could be. Yep.
Seriously. But seriously, they lost so much with this version of the Vecna suit. They did. And if it wasn't for his vocal acting, it would be so disengaging. Like, this guy did an amazing job as a villain. And we all know how much I love my villains, right? But when he was transformed into Vecna, I was like, never mind. This is just going to be one of those I'm going to eat you kind of scenes. You better run away. Okay. I really wanted him to leverage more of like what he's become on his journey. He can really screw with people's heads. Forget about 8 screwing with people's heads. He can do it better than anyone else. And they totally forgot that. And I was so disappointed in all of the things that didn't happen with him. But you're right. That scene in the cave was magnificently acted. It absolutely was.
Yeah, I think it would have been because Henry, just Henry, not having the Vecna is creepy because of the actor. The actor is so fantastic.
He's so good at what he does. Like,
and I think when he dies, it would have been much more interesting. And when I was rewatching it yesterday, I was like, maybe this does happen. I didn't remember it. If he had transferred back to being Henry again, I think that would have been more impactful. Yeah,
I really did. But we got what we got. We got a weird growl like, I'm super pissed at you, right before he got his head chopped off. And I was like, well, what the fuck was that? What was he going to do? Yell at her?
At least there was none of the dry cough that people do when they die. It happens so much. People are like, die.
That's true.
It's hilarious. I can't help it. I look for it every time.
I hate them.
But I feel like because I agree, I think Henry is way scarier, especially in this season, than Vecna. And I think as cool visually as that may have been for Vecna to transform into Henry for Joyce Exenum questions and whatnots, I feel like that would have been too much along the lines of literally humanizing the villain. And now we're seeing a human being having his head chopped off, or we might be a wee bit more sympathetic versus this veiny, gross monster with a Groot arm, apparently, because he can.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking. That's what I kept thinking about his arm.
Yeah.
Okay, but like, if he had turned back into Henry and you got to see the absolute lack of remorse in his face, that would have been amazing. I'm sorry, but it would have.
Okay.
It would have.
Fair.
You're very, yes, would have been incredible.
Because I think, being a supernatural type kind of show, okay, fine, take that for what you will, but like, I think portraying the message to your audience that people can truly just be like this is just as important as telling people that some people can be redeemed or some people are just good people. Guess what? Some people are just bad people as well.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. And maybe he wasn't before the mind flayer infected him or whatever the hell happened, but he made his choice. And I wanted to see that complete lack of remorse because that's what he should have had.
Yeah.
But again, I was loving every one of the scenes with Henry in it because even when he was talking to the kids, just like, wow, he has such a better vocabulary than everyone else in the show, and I love it. The words are amazing. The word choice is beautiful. It's just like, I'm such a nerd. And on the nerd piece, when he was in his little mind flayer Vecna lair and the heart was beating, the first thing my husband did was look up the heart of Vecna because it's a D&D artifact. And he's like, oh, this is so cool. If we had this in the game, we could do this. Like, oh my God.
To quote Hopper, Jesus Christ. Anytime D&D came up. Kind of going back to the flashbacks at the high school and what was the point of those name dropping, like, oh, Hopper's back there, the Wheelers are making out, blah, blah, blah. Apparently that ties more into the stage productions, I think. Because I think there's, and I don't know for certain because I haven't seen the stage production and all of that, but some of the stuff that I was seeing, that some of the things that were introduced this season that may not have made much sense, apparently are all more related to the stage production and what's brought up there and shit like that, which...
Wonderful.
Why reference things that not everyone has access to? I don't have access to go see the stage production, and I may or may not, but I mean, at this point, probably not. 2 seasons ago, maybe, but I don't know. I didn't care for that. I thought that was really, really dumb if that was the only reason why they included those high school memory scenes, or if they were just trying to be cutesy and be like, look, everyone knew each other back in the day, and it's a small town in Indiana. Fucking of course they did.
Why bring it up at all?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I also thought it was interesting that in these memories, they're already living at the house. So when you go back and you watch previous seasons, like what was that? Yeah, last season with the house and Max and the door and the clock, it feels like the timelines aren't matching up here from when they move into the house to when Henry starts doing Vecna-y things to this season and him being a Boy Scout, which I guess is supposed to tell us that he was a good kid at some point because he's a Boy Scout, was my assumption, to becoming mind flayed because he held a magic rock or something. So again, just kind of making shit up as they went, or they forgot some of the stuff that went down. But when you mentioned doing too much this season between Vecna and Linda Hamilton's character. I just wrote down not enough parts for this season to address all of that. So, but yeah, Erin, why don't you let us know how you thought the Linda Hamilton, Dr. K character and that whole storyline pissed you off? Tell us.
I actually won't have much to say on this, honestly, because I don't really care about it. And I think it was kind of like just stunt casting, and they were like, oh, let's get Linda Hamilton because the Terminator and the 80s and 90s stuff. And so it felt like this didn't belong here, and it felt like they were also trying to get, the father character back kind of thing, and get that's the way it felt to me. So it felt so forced and fake and weird, and like it should have been in a different season, and it took away from other things. So I didn't like it at all. I thought it was stupid.
I'll tell you what I thought about it. You could make a drinking game out of every time she smirked at the camera.
That's true. Oh my gosh. You'd be so drunk. Wow.
Maybe that's the only reason that's the whole point of her character is, get people super drunk so they think this is great.
Yeah, who needs to have actual lines when you can just smirk? Everybody knows what that means.
Yeah, again, Linda Hamilton, I mean, yes, absolutely stunt casting. They've pretty much done it every season, but they did absolutely nothing with her. And I get the whole like, oh, but they've got to, they've got to stop her and all of, again, just like you said, Erin, trying to bring back a Papa type figure with all the human experimentations and everything. But again, too much between that and the Vecna storyline, kind of one or the other. And I feel like last season I think they could have, with or without Linda Hamilton's character, they could have pretty much closed up the whole government human experimenting storyline.
Agreed,
with the death
and I thought they had. So this was just really pissing me off.
Yeah, with the death of Brenner. I remember Paul Reiser was there, and I think he ended up living. But the one Colonel General guy that was in this season that was very kind of gung-ho, and he ends up getting blown up or not blown up, but like burnt during the Vecna attack. He was in last season.
Right.
And he was an asshole. And I guess he did live. I kind of remember that. But I don't know. It just, again, I thought we could have been done with that part of the storyline and then, yes, just focus on the Vecna stuff.
Or at the very least, they could have resolved the Linda Hamilton stuff earlier in this season.
Yeah.
And if they really wanted to pay credit to Terminator for whatever reason, they could have had her die a very Terminator-like death, sink into something squelchy.
But like nothing happens to her. As far as we know, there are no consequences for any of these crimes against humanity.
The smirk just like totally disarmed everything. Maybe she's secretly one of the experiments, and that's her 11 power. She smirks and all the consequences go away.
We forget all the problems. All right. Well,
let's run with that. Let's make it the latest conspiracy theory about things and see what happens.
Smirk. The Dr. K smirk and what it means. All right. So let's see, as we kind of near the end, what are some other things that you wanted to mention, Erin, that we may not have gotten to? Because there is just so much. And yes, I don't want to this is now the third time I am recording an episode on this season. Don't make me do it again. No.
I think it's so awful and undeserved. They didn't earn being able to play Purple Rain and When Doves Cry. And Purple Rain being played when when Eleven and Mike are having their little goodbye or whatever really pissed me off. I'm like, no.
I was in shock about that. I was like, oh my God, how did they get this song? Like, Prince was notoriously protective of this song in particular. How did they get it?
Yeah, I don't know, but it really irked me because I love Prince so much. So that really irritated me. I did appreciate hearing a Pixies song that wasn't "Where Is My Mind" and that it was "Here Comes Your Man." I really appreciated that because I love the Pixies. I think we already talked about that part. Oh, I actually, and I know this is unpopular, I hated the whole Joyce axing, like killing Vecna thing with the axe. You fucked with the wrong family. I laughed so hard when she said that. And also the actual finale episode was so long. It was way too long. Because I remember pausing it at one point when I watched it the first time. And I'm like, there's surely 2 minutes left. And it said 25 minutes. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. What else is they're going to say? What else are they going to say? I think it was really a cheap cop out to have it be maybe 11 is alive. I don't know. I thought that was a cheap cop out there. And I did hear a rumor before the series finished that they were going to be killing 6 main characters. And I actually think that would have been kind of more interesting than what they ended up doing, to be honest. I love that Steve is a coach, a baseball coach. I think that is perfect for him. That is one of the best things they did with Steve the whole season. So I think that's all I had. Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad that you brought up the axe, because this was another moment where I was like, I'm really glad I'm watching this with my husband, because he goes, I think the axe would work better if you took the guard off first. And then he's like, you know what else? She was surprisingly accurate with that, considering she was holding it at the far end of the handle instead of having one hand positioned farther up towards the head, and it slides down during the swing. He's like, I don't understand how she did that. Okay, fair point. I wouldn't have even thought of either of those things. But yeah, you're right.
That.
The whole "you fucked with the wrong family." I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's more than your family who's been in this, but okay. But yeah, I don't know. I know earlier you mentioned that you don't like Nancy, but I do. I really do, especially since she finally just ended things with Jonathan and got back to being herself. Yeah. I felt like that was fantastic. But if I have to pick one thing that I was most happy to see, was their mother at the graduation not hiding her scars. That was amazing.
I agree. Especially in, the 80s. We don't, you didn't flaunt those kind of things, a middle-aged woman, but she did. And I think that absolutely says something, again, to the character of the Wheeler women. Unafraid, confident, ass-kicking. So I agree. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that they did. I don't know if it was as significant to others, but it definitely stood out for me.
Yeah, it seemed like that was appreciated from what I could tell across the internet. So I think that is one of the shinier moments in the season. Small, shiny moment.
Especially since they didn't try to minimize the scars or make them look pretty. They looked gnarly. So yeah, it was great.
All right, so let's see. The couple of things that I have left. So yes, Joyce and the axing and the smoky eye. So I would have been fine. I would have accepted her being the one to land the final blows and everything. and getting all smart mouthy about not fucking with the wrong family. If her character just wasn't a shell of who she was in seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, this overprotective, overbearing mom shit with her 40-year-old son Will is just frustrating as all hell. So I really fucking hated that because Joyce has always been a kick-ass go-getter, very much a don't fuck with my family kind of vibe. But this season, she was absolutely not. And the couple of times she tried to stand up to a Demogorgon and to Vecna, it's like, stop. Who are you? This is not working at all.
Right?
And even my husband at first was like, why the fuck is Joyce going up there? The fuck is she doing? And then by the end, he's like, oh, because of course she has to be the one to land the blows. But I never noticed the guard still being on the axe. And
I didn't either.
I love it so much. How very Game of Thrones and water bottles and coffee cups of them. Yeah, I didn't like her this season. When it comes to the music choice, I actually disagree with Robin. I think Butthole Surfers would have been an absolutely phenomenal choice to blow up the Upside Down tomb.
I agree. I think that would have been funny.
Yeah.
Would have loved that. And then, okay, so Mike and Elle are having their goodbye in his brain or her brain or whatever, right? And then we get the story about how the theory that she is actually alive, from Mike and all of that. And they're talking about the suppression stones and relating real life to D&D. Okay, so they've got the, quote, suppression stones, the Elle's kryptonite going. 8 is just far enough away. She can still use her powers to make Elle invisible and sneak away. But then how the fuck? So is it 8 that is using her powers in combination with Elle's powers to get into Mike's mind or whatever to say that goodbye? Because by the time Elle gets down into the tunnel space under Radio Shack, and shout out to Radio Shack for being a phenomenal character throughout this whole fucking series. Very, very unappreciated storefront.
Best supporting actor.
But by the time she gets down into the tunnels, like everything starts whooshing around. So I guess my other question of many is how the fuck did she do that? And was that just all Kali projecting Elle like a pre-recorded message and replaying it in Mike's brain?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either. They discussed it beforehand. It was part of when Will was coming out. They took a beat and they kind of went, let's just take a second and go over here and then we can talk about this while this is happening.
Yeah, they probably did because they were as impatient as I was.
That's where Kali was the whole time. She's thinking about like, all right, how am I going to do this? How am I going to save my sister and end the experiments? Because this does not involve me. So, all right. I think that's just going to have to do it for us today. Yeah, I know there's like, I know we didn't really talk about Murray a whole lot, but again, a shell of a character, a Zionist, even more so than Noah, in my opinion, because he is old enough to fucking know better. Noah, I give the benefit of the doubt that he's still a child and may just be doing dumb child things. I don't know, but I feel like Brett Gilman knows better or should know better. But Murray, again, was just a character of who he was in past seasons. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But all right, so now we are going to move on to the Midwest goodbye, and this is the beginning of the end, all in one part. We've done our whelp knee slap, and we're going to stand at the door and say goodbye for like another 20 more minutes. First, we're going to start with the 6 degrees of Nicolas Cage, where we connect this show to Nicolas Cage in 6 steps or less. Why the fuck not? Erin, how'd you do?
I think I did well.
Okay.
I used Joe Keery, who was in Molly's Game with Idris Elba, who was in Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance with Nicolas Cage. So it's a quick one, but yeah.
Nice. Very good.
I didn't get one for this. Sorry.
Laura, you're grounded.
I am.
Normally, I have more than one that I could have given to you, but I only have the one. So I went with Finn Wolfhard because even though he isn't Finn Whitrock from Erin's podcast where she does the 6 degrees of Finn, he's a Finn. So I'm rolling with it. And he has amazing hair. But he was in Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio with Ron Perlman, who was in Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage.
You know what's so funny about the Finn Wolfhard and Finn Whitrock? One of my frequent panelists, Tanya, they are not familiar with Finn Whitrock, excuse me. And so they thought for the longest time that I was talking about Finn Wolfhard, and they're like, isn't he a little young? No, not that Finn.
Oh, I love that.
That's funny.
That's adorable. All right. So up next is what's been streaming in your bubble. So, Laura, what have you been watching or reading? What you been up to?
I just finished 12 Months, which is the latest release in the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher.
Okay.
If you want a story that deals with grief and PTSD in a surprisingly emotionally accurate and relatable way, that's your story. It was unfortunate that I finished that story and then watched the rest of Stranger Things because it made all the points where things didn't go quite as well stick out more. And I forgot to say this earlier, but Erica's a badass and she deserves some credit too.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. All right. And Erin, what's been streaming in your bubble?
Well, totally different from what we're talking about, but there's the America's Next Top Model documentary on Netflix, which is
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. Tyra Banks is a total piece of crap. She can't take responsibility for anything she did. She's just really not that great of a person. But warning for that, it deals a lot with eating disorders. There's some racism, some homophobia, all of that. So, the eating disorders is the biggest one for that one, of course. And I started watching this show on Peacock, and I'm still not sure what I think about it, called The Burbs. So it's like a remake of the Tom Hanks movie. And I love Keke Palmer, so she's fun in it, but I'm not positive yet what I think about it. But I keep watching it, so I must be invested somehow because I want to see like the mystery. I want to see what's going on. And then lastly, because I just always want to plug this movie for horror fans out there, especially if you love like fun horror movies. Well, there's Send Help. Send Help is absolutely fantastic. But I'm getting the steel box, shout out for physical media, of the Silent Night, Deadly Night film that was made that recently came out. And that movie is so much fun. Rowan Campbell is so good in the role of Billy. And I love the take on it. And they released this ahead of time, so it's not really too much of a spoiler. Also, you get to watch like about 7-8 minutes of Nazis being slaughtered. So that is the feel-good moment. Yeah, even if you don't watch the movie, you can watch that scene on YouTube of just Nazis being slaughtered. So,
excellent.
Hey!
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, man, when you mentioned the Burbs, though, it took me a second to make sure you were talking about suburbs and not like birds, because people are calling birds burbs. It's happened so much that I'm like,
oh yeah,
wait, is this like a parody of the Hitchcock movie, The Birds?
Oh.
And now I want that to be a thing.
Awesome. So, for me, so I finished reading Bird Box. And by the end of it, I didn't like the ending because I didn't like the main character. It didn't start off that way. The book itself is pretty good, but Mallory and then the ending just sullies it for me so much. So I'm watching the movie to see how I feel about the on-screen version. And I love Sandra Bullock. I love Sandy B. So I'm like, please play her as a bit more likable. She doesn't, only because that's who the character kind of is. And I didn't even finish it last night, like on purpose. I was just like, I'll finish this tomorrow. I am not interested in finishing this right now. And then I turned on, like, I think Ghost Brothers, and I fell asleep to that because I was sleepy. Like, the movie itself couldn't even put me to sleep. I needed something far more comforting. So I'll finish it and see how I feel. But already I'm just kind of like, meh. So, but that could just be because I'm already going into the movie with a biased opinion. So, yeah, of not liking it.
That movie was so huge when it dropped on Netflix. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
It was this biggest deal when it was on Netflix.
I do remember that, and I didn't even watch it back then because sometimes, like, I can just kind of revert into just like curmudgeon-y asshole ways, and like, oh, everyone else watched it, so I'm not gonna watch it.
I understand. I do that too.
Yeah. All right, but that is going to do it for us today. I want to thank you both, Erin and Laura, for joining me and talking about the show. I appreciate both of your guys' opinions, perspectives, takes. I loved all of it. So before we leave, Erin, if you want to go ahead and let the folks know where they can find, follow, and support your podcasts.
Yes. So Jen and I co-host a podcast together, Twin It to Win It. So, we discuss a different horror movie every month. And so we twinned it. You can guess how the other one feels. So listen to that wherever you're listening to this. And then my main podcast is It's a Fandom Thing, which again covers fandom and pop culture primarily from the female perspective. And you can find links to our social media and all our past episodes at it'safandomthingpod.com. We have over 600 episodes, so tons of stuff. And then I also co-host, and it's been on hiatus because of personal stuff with me, but I also co-host a podcast called It's a Dean Thing, where I mentioned Dean Winchester in this. So we just take a deep dive, me, Paula, and Moth. We take a deep dive into the character Dean Winchester through the seasons and just analyze him, and it's a ton of fun. So, yep.
Awesome. So make sure you guys go check those out, find, follow, support, and share your favorite episodes with the people that you care about. So, and Laura, thank you so much for joining me as well. You don't really have social medias to promote, but is there anything you want to be like, hey, you guys should do this? I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. This is not usually what I do, but I'm like, well, Laura should be able to say like goodbye.
Next month is Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month, so definitely recommend watching Crip Camp at the very least if you haven't. I had the pleasure of interviewing one of the people who was responsible for that documentary last year, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. So it's a documentary that will remain near and dear to my heart, and I think it's all the more important to watch it in today's world.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, and Laura, you and I did an episode covering that documentary, so which was a very good episode. It's weird to say that it was a lot of fun, but it was, because
it was.
So, all right. And then as for me, you guys know you can just go ahead and search My Streaming Bubble, and I will pop on up there for you. And then you can find, follow, share, support from your favorite social medias and from your preferred podcast player. So thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, keep streaming. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to let me know by rating and reviewing on a podcast player near you, and by sharing your favorite episodes with your friends, family, and mail carrier. Then be sure to follow me on all your favorite socials like Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Just search My Streaming Bubble and I should pop on up there for ya. If you have suggestions on what I should stream in my bubble next, or you want to be tolerated, send an email to mystreamingbubble@gmail.com. Looking for merch? Stop by my Redbubble store where you can find and buy My Streaming Bubble stickers, hats, shirts, and more. You can also head over to buymeacoffee.com and, well, buy me a coffee. Need more podcast me in your life? Then be sure to check out my other podcast, Twin It to Win It. That's a monthly podcast that I co-host with my podcast brain twin, Erin from It's a Fandom Thing, where we test our twinningness by trying to guess if we both feel the same way about different horror movies. You can find and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. And most importantly, you can listen, rate, review, and share from most podcast players. Thank you for your support, and keep streaming. Goodbye.